Like many of you, I suspect, I was very suspicious when USF went from Blackboard to Canvas. But I have to say, the one single feature of Canvas, the gradebook, more than justified this in my mind. And so in this particular lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the gradebook. The specific topics that we're going to cover are the submission of assignments from the perspective of a student, how we set up the gradebook, the killer feature of Canvas, the speed grader, and finally we'll talk a little bit about the messaging capability, which makes it easy to send messages out to certain groups of students based upon their grades and whether or not they've submitted assignments. Before we get into the grade book, the first thing I need is something to actually submit. So what I'm going to do is go into settings and I'll go into student view, and this will allow me to become a student for a moment and submit an assignment. And the first assignment that is ready is the background assignment, background form assignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Notice it takes a doc and a docx, so I'm going to click on submit. I'll browse, and I think I created a test background form here somewhere. There we go. And now I will submit it. And now I'm ready to take a look at the gradebook after I leave student view. So I go into the gradebook, and since this is the test course, there really isn't that much in here. There are just 2 assignments. One thing that you should be aware of in the gradebook is this gear option over here. You can download the gradebook into a CSV file, comma-separated variable, which will allow you to look at it in Excel. You can change the grades in Excel and then upload it, provided you save it as a comma-separated value gradebook. Grading groups are a way of classifying different assignments, such as, say, projects, discussions, written assignments, and you can create your own groups and then assign different weights to them. I usually do my grading using a spreadsheet because it just is a little bit less cumbersome than the tools provided by Canvas. I use Canvas to assign the individual grades for assignments, but the spreadsheet allows me to combine them and group them and order them and so forth. You can hide the student names. That's not necessary here since the only student is test students. Arrange columns by due date is actually a useful feature to have. What that does is you add assignments. A lot of times they come out sort of out of order. So if you arrange them by due dates, it's easier to find them. Treat it ungraded as 0. That's self-explanatory. And concluded enrollments and notes columns I've never used. So those are the basic things in the grade book. And in addition, each assignment has its own things. I'll talk about the messaging option at the end. But the actual grading process is can be controlled for each assignment. There is absolutely no doubt that my favorite feature of Canvas is the speed grader, which works in the context of the gradebook. And now that we have an assignment submitted, what I'll do is I'll show you some of the things that you can do in the speed grader. And a lot of these capabilities are particularly applicable to online courses, though you can use them in your regular courses every bit as well. So what I'm going to do now is take the assignment that was submitted by our test student, and I will then go into the speed grader. And the speed grader will be set up so that you can go from student to student. Right now we only have one student. And for each assignment, what will happen is when the student's assignment is selected, it should appear in this window. Now, a couple of caveats about that. Some of these I found while trying to prepare this lecture. Um, the program that actually does the work here is known as Workshop-Gradebook, and it's an absolutely wonderful program in terms of making it easy to grade. But I had some problems loading my first form, and I concluded it was probably the font. So one of the things I might suggest is that if you're preparing assignments and you're going to have your students typing in the assignments, you might use one of the standard fonts, such as Times New Roman or Arial, because that seemed to convert perfectly. But when I tried it with an earlier version of this assignment, using one of those unusual fonts, the Workshop-Gradebook would not load it. So now we have this assignment to grade, and of course one thing you can do is just look at the assignment and put in a grade. And that's fine. What you can also do, however, is you can actually make comments on the assignment. And so, for example, if you've got a tablet, and I'm not doing this on my tablet, but if you've got a tablet, you can actually draw on it. We'll choose blue so as not to be intimidating, and we can, I'm just using my mouse here, but with a tablet I could actually write comments just as I would on paper. I can highlight things within the text. I can do, things like strike out, maybe strike out there, change the color. And then of course I can write a comment at a specific point or an area. So for example, I might put here, don't answer a question with a question. And now, one of the things that the students will be able to do is download this either as the original file or as the PDF that includes all the comments and annotations. So this is a really convenient way of getting stuff to the students. And as I say, the Workshop-Gradebook has always worked very well for me. The first time I had a problem was when I was creating this test course, and I think it was probably the fact that I was using fonts that were not the normal fonts within a Windows setting. So I will in future always create assignment forms using things like Times New Roman, which is what I always used to do. Now you can assign a grade over here to the gradebook. You can also add a comment which will go to the students. So for example, I could say, good job. One of the things that I sometimes do to make my grading more personal, particularly in an online course, is I'll actually have a notepad with some standard comments, and then I'll just paste them in. Now, when you do paste in a comment, you have to make sure that you submit it. Otherwise, it'll just stay there, and you may find it accidentally goes to the wrong student. I can also add a media comment, which can really make things a little bit more personal in an online course. So I'll click here. What it's going to do is it's going to connect my recorder. I will put in a title, comment to student, or I can just leave the title as true. I will then record a brief comment. This is a reasonable submission as a demonstration, but you probably would not want this particular submission to be your real submission. This is a reasonable submission as a demonstration, but you probably would not want this particular submission to be your real submission. You'll notice how my eyes went down trying to find where the stop button was. And so now we've got a media comment as well. And now what we'll do is we'll go take a look at it from the student's perspective. And the way we will do that is we will go back to our test student. So I'll go to the course home. I will go to settings. I will go to student view. Now I can go over to grades, and you'll notice this one here signifies that we have a grade to look at. We will go to the background form assignment, and we'll see what the student will see. So first off, the student sees the good job that I typed. The student sees the immediate comment. If the student clicks on this, this is a reasonable submission as a demonstration, but you probably would not want this particular submission to be your real submission. If I come over here to view feedback, it actually shows what I wrote in the Crocodoc. So this is an incredibly powerful tool for getting information to students. And when you're dealing with an online course, it can be very, very challenging creating that level of interactivity. And so this is a very, very nice feature for making online courses seem a little bit more personal. One final element of the gradebook that I rather like is the ability to message students on a particular assignment. So if you were to go up here and open this button, one of the things that you see is the ability to message students who, and if you click on this, it will give you some more options. And the options include haven't submitted yet, haven't been graded, scored less than, or scored more than, which are actually probably the most common options that I would normally want. So haven't submitted yet is a good way of doing a reminder. Haven't been graded is probably a good message for an apology. Scored less than is a good way of sending out things to students who are in trouble, and scored more than is a good way of congratulating students. So we won't bother sending out a message, but this is actually a very nice tool for getting out messages and reminding people to get assignments in and that sort of thing.